OMG, you are more famous than you realize, and your name is moving through rooms you have not even entered yet. Jane's here, and this reading carries an energy that feels social, bright, exposed, and honestly a little shocking. Because the Three of Cups is here, and this card is not quiet. This is the card of groups, gatherings, friend circles, private conversations, people sitting together, laughing together, exchanging stories, and suddenly, somehow your name comes up. And what I am feeling immediately is this. You have been quietly becoming a big deal. Not in a loud way. Not in a way where you had to announce yourself, prove yourself, or force anyone to notice you. It is subtler than that. It is your presence, your energy, the way you carry yourself now, the way something about you has become more polished, more magnetic, more difficult to dismiss. And people are noticing. High-status circles are noticing. People who are used to being the most interesting person in the room are noticing you. People who normally do not speak on others, unless there is something worth speaking on, are mentioning you. Your name came up, and it did not come up casually. It came up with curiosity, with surprise. With that pause people make when they realize someone they underestimated is not who they thought they were. This is the part that feels important. Because with the Three of Cups, this is not one person watching you in silence. This is a social echo. One person notices something about you, then they say it to someone else. Someone else confirms it. Someone else adds, "I noticed that too." And suddenly, the energy around you starts moving. Your reputation is moving before you arrive. Your presence is being discussed in places where you are not physically sitting. And that is why this feels so powerful. Because you may still be thinking of yourself as someone who is trying to be seen. But these people are already seeing you. They are already watching. They are already talking. And the conversation is not, who do they think they are? The conversation is becoming, wait, who are they really? There is a difference. A very important difference. Because the first question comes from judgment. But the second question comes from fascination. And right now, you are becoming fascinating to people who do not get fascinated easily. And now with the Four of Wands coming through, I understand why this is not just loose talk. Because this card is about arrival. It is about being welcomed somewhere. It is about the doorway, the threshold. The moment where people stop seeing you as someone on the outside and start wondering why you have not been inside the whole time. And that is the part that feels so interesting here. Your name is not moving around in a messy way. It is moving around in a placement way. Like people are trying to figure out where you fit. Who knows you? Who brought you up? Who has access to you? Who has already seen this version of you up close? And I keep getting this image of a group of people talking, and the conversation is light at first. It starts casual. Someone laughs. Someone mentions something they saw, something you posted, something you said, something about how you looked, how you moved, how calm you seemed, how different your energy felt. And then the tone shifts. Not dramatically, subtly. The way a room shifts when people realize the topic is more interesting than they expected. Someone says your name, then someone else leans in. Someone else asks, "Wait, you know them?" And that is where the energy changes. Because with the Four of Wands, this is not just about being noticed from far away. This is about being discussed as someone who may belong in a certain circle, a certain space, a certain room, a certain table. And what makes this powerful is that you did not beg for that seat. You did not chase the invitation. You did not knock loudly. You simply became harder to ignore. There is something about your current presence that feels more established now. More complete. More self-contained. Like you are not waiting for someone to validate you before you stand tall. And people can feel that. They can feel when someone has crossed an internal threshold. They may not have the language for it, but they notice. They notice the glow up. They notice the restraint. They notice the mystery. They notice how you are not explaining yourself the way you used to, and that makes them talk. Not because they fully understand you, but because they do not. And the most shocking part is not that your name is being spoken. It is not even that people are curious. The most shocking part is who is bringing you up first, because I do not feel this is someone with nothing to lose. That is the thing. With the Nine of Wands showing up now, the person bringing you up first is not careless with their attention. They are guarded. They are selective. They have seen enough people come and go that they do not just hand out praise because someone looks interesting for 5 minutes. This is someone who watches before they speaks, someone who measures energy, someone who has learned not to be impressed too quickly, and yet your name is coming through their mouth. That matters. Because this is not random attention. This is not background noise. This is not a crowd of people gossiping because they are bored and your name happened to float into the room. No. This feels more intentional than that. These are people with taste, people with access. People who know who is invited where. People who understand social value without needing to say it out loud. People who can tell when someone is rising before the rest of the room catches up. And somehow, without you realizing it, you have entered their awareness. You have entered a mental shortlist. That is what I keep feeling. A short list. The kind of list people keep quietly. Who is interesting? Who is worth watching? Who should be invited? Who should be introduced? Who has something about them that could shift the energy of a room? And you may not see yourself that way yet. You may still be thinking, I am just moving through my life. I am just trying to stay steady. I am just trying to keep myself together. But from the outside, something looks different. Something looks stronger. The Nine of Wands has that energy of someone who has been through things and did not become weaker. They became more defined, more discerning, more impossible to read at first glance. And that mystery is doing something. People are looking at you from across the table. People are noticing how you do not rush to fill silence. People are noticing how you can be warm, but still not fully available. How you can be present, but not desperate. How you can be kind, but not easy to claim. And that is the kind of energy that makes high-status people pause. Because they are used to people trying to impress them. They are used to people performing. They are used to people reaching. But you are not reaching the same way. You are not leaning forward with hunger. You are standing there with history, with composure, with something behind your eyes that says, I have survived more than you know. And someone in that circle sees it. Someone respects it. Someone is not just mentioning you casually. They are making a point about you. And I feel like when another person tries to minimize you or act like your energy is not that serious, this person does not agree. They push back, maybe softly, maybe with one sentence, but they push back. And that is where this gets interesting. Because someone in that room is defending your name more strongly than you think. And I keep feeling that this person did not defend you loudly. That is not how this comes through. With the Page of Wands here, it feels like one sentence, one spark. One comment that changes the temperature of the room. Someone says something about you. Maybe something small. Maybe something slightly dismissive. Maybe something that makes it clear they have not really understood you. And this person catches it. They catch the tone. They catch the assumption. They catch the way your name is being placed too low. And then they say something. Not a speech. Not a performance. Just something that lands. Something like, no, there is more to them than that. Or you should actually pay attention to them. Or, I do not think you realize who that is becoming. And that is when people look again. That is the phrase I keep hearing. They made people look again. Because the Page of Wands has this young fire, this spark of attention, this sudden message, this little signal that travels faster than anyone expected. It is not heavy. It is not forced. But it is alive, and that is what your name is doing right now. It is traveling like a spark. From one person to another. From one room to another. From one private conversation into another private conversation. And the person speaking well of you has influence because they are not easily excited. They are not someone who praises everybody. So when they say, "Actually, I noticed them too," people listen. When they say, "There is something there," people listen. When they say, "Do not underestimate that one," people listen. And I do feel that this has a charged energy around it, not necessarily romantic, not necessarily obvious, but charged. Because respect can be charged, recognition can be charged. That moment when someone sees your potential before the whole room admits, it can feel very magnetic. They saw something. They said something. They made people look again. And now the whole conversation around you is changing shape. Before, someone may have thought you were just quiet, just pleasant, just around, just another face in the room. But now that sounds wrong. Now that sounds uninformed. Now that sounds like someone was not paying attention. And the more your name moves, the more obvious it becomes. Some people underestimated you. And now that underestimation is starting to look embarrassing. And with the Ace of Cups showing up now, this is why it feels so clean. Because this does not feel like revenge. It does not feel like you trying to prove a point. It does not feel like you standing in front of people saying, "Look at me now." No, this feels softer than that, stronger than that. It feels like your energy opened in a way people did not expect. Like something about you became more visible because you stopped carrying yourself like you had to protect every part of yourself from being seen. And that is the reversal. People thought your quietness meant there was nothing there. They thought your silence meant you had no influence. They thought because you were not constantly speaking, constantly posting, constantly reaching, constantly trying to be included, that you were not important. But that was the mistake. A very big mistake. Because your silence was not absence. Your silence was becoming. Your silence was refinement. Your silence was you gathering yourself, learning yourself, choosing yourself, and becoming someone with more emotional depth than they knew how to measure. And now they are seeing it. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to feel the shift. Enough to hear your name differently. Enough to realize that the version of you they had in their mind is outdated. And I feel like that is what is making certain people uncomfortable. Because they made a judgment about you too early. They put you in a small category. They decided you were simple, easy to read, easy to replace, easy to overlook. And now your presence is correcting that without you having to say anything. That is powerful. When you do not have to argue, when you do not have to explain, when you do not have to convince anybody that you are more than what they assumed. Because the way people respond to you now is doing the explaining. The way your name keeps entering conversations is doing the explaining. The way someone important keeps noticing you is doing the explaining. And with the Ace of Cups, there is also this emotional intelligence around you. This softness, this warmth, this almost disarming quality. People expected you to be one thing. But you are layered. You can be kind and still have standards. You can be gentle and still be powerful. You can be open-hearted and still impossible to control. And that combination is rare. That is what makes people look again. That is what makes them rethink what they said. That is what makes someone sit there quietly and realize, maybe I was wrong about them. And they were wrong. But you do not have to punish them for being wrong. Your growth is already enough. Your presence is already enough. Your name moving through those rooms is already enough. But now, because people are starting to see you clearly, another energy is entering the room. Because not everyone is comfortable watching someone they underestimated rise. And that discomfort is not as loud as people think. It is not always someone openly hating. It is not always someone saying your name with obvious jealousy. Sometimes it is quieter. With the Eight of Cups here, it feels like people noticing that you are no longer standing where they left you. That is the tension. You moved, emotionally, socially, energetically. You walked away from the version of yourself that used to wait to be chosen. You walked away from rooms where you had to shrink yourself just to be tolerated. You walked away from proving your warmth to people who only knew how to take from it. And now some people are looking around like, wait, where did they go? But you did not disappear, you elevated. And that is what makes this energy so uncomfortable for certain people, because they expected you to stay in the same position, the same role, the same emotional place. They expected you to be easy to access, easy to read, easy to place beneath someone else. But now there is distance, there is mystery, there is a sense that you are not as available to the old dynamic anymore. And people can feel that. They may smile when your name comes up, but the smile is a little tight. They may ask about you casually, but the question is not casual. They may say, "Oh, how are they doing?" But underneath that is something else. A measurement, a comparison, a little checking, a little watching, because your rise is making certain people aware of their own stillness. That is what envy really is here. Not danger, not something to fear. Just evidence that your movement is visible. You changed the atmosphere by choosing yourself. You became someone who could leave the old cups behind, and that alone made people pay attention. Because high-status circles notice confidence, but they also notice detachment. They notice when someone is not begging. They notice when someone can walk away and still be talked about. That is rare. And I feel like there is someone who used to assume they had the louder presence, the stronger pull, the more admired position, and now your name is interrupting that comfort. Not because you are trying to compete, but because your energy is naturally becoming harder to ignore. And this is why something is opening. Because the same conversations that are making one person uncomfortable are making another person curious. Very curious. Curious enough to reach out. Curious enough to mention your name again. Curious enough to create an opening you were not expecting. And with the King of Pentacles reversed showing up here, this opening feels connected to someone with position. Someone with status. Someone with resources. Someone who has influence over the room, even if they are not the loudest person in it. But because this card is reversed, I do not feel this access is completely simple. There is a power dynamic around it. There is someone who may be used to controlling who gets close, who gets invited, who gets introduced, who gets taken seriously, and somehow your name is moving past that control. That is what feels so shocking. Because this is not you forcing your way into a space. This is the space starting to turn toward you. A door is being discussed before it is opened. A table is being mentioned before you sit at it. A guest list is being adjusted before you even know there is a guest list. And I keep hearing this phrase, bring them. Not in a dramatic way, not in a movie scene way. More like someone says your name, and another person pauses, and then there is this quiet decision. Maybe they should come. Maybe we should invite them. Maybe they need to be in the room. And that is where the energy shifts again. Because before, people were only talking. Now the talking is turning into movement. An introduction, a message, a collaboration, a chance to be seen in a setting that actually matters. A chance to enter a room where people are not just watching you from a distance anymore. They are testing the closeness. They are wondering what happens when your energy is actually in the room. And with the King of Pentacles reversed, I feel like there may be someone who thought they controlled that room. Someone who thought they decided who had value. Someone who thought they could keep certain people outside by simply not mentioning them. But your name is being mentioned anyway. That is the part. Your name is slipping through. Your presence is being carried by other people. Your reputation is doing what permission could not do. And you may not realize how close this is. You may still be sitting there thinking nothing is happening. But something is forming. Behind the scenes. Through conversations. Through someone's curiosity. Through someone else's respect. Through the way one person keeps bringing you up until the room finally pays attention. And when this opening comes, it may look casual. That is important. It may not arrive with fireworks. It may come as a simple text. A casual invite. A "you should stop by." A "we were just talking about you." A "someone mentioned your name." But do not underestimate it, because the way you respond to this opening will decide how far this access goes. And with the Five of Wands reversed, coming through now, this is the warning in the most subtle way. Do not enter the room ready to fight. Do not enter the room trying to prove that you deserve to be there. Do not enter the room carrying the energy of everyone who once made you feel small. Because that is the old version of the game. And you are not in the old game anymore. The Five of Wands upright can be noise. Competition. People trying to be louder than each other. People trying to win attention by interrupting, comparing, performing, pushing their energy into the center. But reversed. This feels like you are being asked to step out of that. To not compete. To not explain. To not rush to show all your cards just because someone important is looking at you. That is the part that matters. Because when this opening comes, you may feel that old instinct. The instinct to over-talk, to over-give, to prove you are smart, to prove you are kind, to prove you are interesting, to prove you belong. But you do not have to do that. You really do not. Your energy already entered the room before you did. That is why your name was being spoken. That is why they were curious. That is why someone defended you. That is why the door is opening in the first place. So when you step into this next space, stay calm, stay warm, stay present, but do not become overly available. Do not hand people access to every part of you, just because they finally noticed your value. Let them notice. Let them wonder. Let them meet you slowly. Because part of your power right now is that you are not coming in desperate to be chosen. You are coming in already chosen by yourself. And people can feel the difference. They can feel when someone is hungry for approval, and they can feel when someone has self-respect. One makes people test you. The other makes people adjust. And I feel like this is where your energy becomes very important. You do not need to be cold. You do not need to be guarded in a harsh way. But you do need to stay centered. Because some people may try to pull you into comparison. They may ask little questions. They may watch how you respond. They may try to see if you will shrink around certain names, certain titles, certain social positions. Do not shrink. Do not compete. Do not make yourself smaller to make the room more comfortable. The room is already adjusting to you. And the real reason this is happening goes deeper than beauty. Deeper than popularity. Deeper than people simply liking what they see. Because with the Four of Pentacles reversed here, this is about what you finally stopped holding on to. That is what people are feeling. They may not know how to name it. They may call it confidence. They may call it glow. They may call it presence. They may say, something is different about them. But what they are really noticing is release. You stopped gripping so tightly. You stopped holding on to rooms that made you question yourself. You stopped holding on to people who only valued you when you were convenient. You stopped holding on to the version of you that had to perform, smile, explain, soften, adjust, and overextend just to be accepted. And that release changed your entire aura. That is why this feels deeper than popularity. Because popularity can be loud. Popularity can be temporary. Popularity can come from attention. But this is different. This is recognition. This is people sensing that you have become more rooted in yourself. Even with the Four of Pentacles reversed, there is this feeling of someone who used to protect their worth by hiding it, by keeping everything close, by not letting people see how much they cared, by not letting people see how much they had grown. But now, Something is loosening, not in a careless way, in a powerful way. You are not giving yourself away. You are simply not hiding the evidence of your transformation anymore, and people feel that. They feel the healing. They feel the restraint. They feel the emotional maturity. They feel that you are not trying to win them over. You are not auditioning. You are not waiting for someone to clap before you know you did well. And that is rare, especially in circles where people are used to performance, where everyone is trying to look unbothered while secretly needing approval. But you are carrying something different, quiet but unforgettable, kind but not available to everyone, warm but not easily accessed, soft but not weak, open but not unprotected. And that combination is what makes people keep talking, because they can sense that your energy has a door now. Not a wall, a door. And not everyone gets to walk through it. That is the authority in you. Not harshness, not arrogance, authority. The kind that comes from knowing what you will no longer abandon in yourself. And that is why this recognition could not have happened earlier. Because earlier, you may have mistaken attention for acceptance. You may have handed too much of yourself to people who had not earned it. But now, you are being seen at the exact moment you finally know how to hold your own value. And that is why this is happening now, not before. Now, and with the Knight of Pentacles coming through now, this is why the recognition feels solid. Because this is not sudden in the way people think. It may look sudden to them. It may look like, where did they come from? It may look like your name just appeared in these rooms overnight. But it did not. You have been building this version of yourself quietly. Step by step. Choice by choice. Moment by moment. You have been becoming someone people can feel before they fully understand. And the Knight of Pentacles is not flashy. That is the important part. This is not attention that comes from chaos. This is not a quick spotlight that disappears the second someone louder enters the room. This is earned presence. Steady presence. The kind of presence that stays in someone's mind after the conversation ends. And that is why you are more famous than you realize. Not because everyone knows you. Not because every room is shouting your name. But because the right people are starting to know of you. The right people are hearing about you. The right people are asking questions. The right people are remembering your energy after only hearing your name once. And that is a different kind of visibility. A more powerful kind. Because when your reputation moves before you arrive, you are no longer walking into a blank room. You are walking into a room where something has already been said. Something has already been noticed. Something has already been felt. And I want you to understand how powerful that is. You may still be seeing yourself through the eyes of the old story. The version of you that waited. The version of you that wondered if people noticed. The version of you that thought you had to become louder to matter. But that version is not telling the full truth anymore. Because people are noticing your steadiness, your discipline, your self-respect, your quiet refusal to go backward. They are noticing that you are not moving like someone who needs to be rescued by attention. You are moving like someone who has already chosen their path. And that kind of energy makes people trust what they are seeing. It makes them curious. It makes them lean in. It makes them say your name again. So no, this is not random. This is not accidental. This is not meaningless talk. This is the beginning of a new social chapter where your presence has weight before you even speak. And the next time you walk into a room, remember this. Somebody already noticed. Somebody already spoke. Somebody already made space for the idea of you. And now you are becoming impossible to ignore.